In this video, I want to question, what is the human soul, and does AI have the chance to take it? This becomes a looming question because in this current day of AI, there's a high chance that with the rise of sort of technology, that we begin to integrate AI in terms of kind of humanistic aspects. So putting AI into the brain or modeling AIs after the brain to kind of create another human replica. And this becomes a problem because, as Ted Krasinski pointed out in his book, Industrial Society and Its Future, that once someone does the first implant of AI into the brain or something related to that, everyone will have to jump on that train because the society will value those people and people will be separated and discriminated upon if they don't kind of grab onto that as well. So that means if somebody invents this idea of AI in the brain, there'll be a huge spike and increase of people using it, and it'll kind of go down like an avalanche, like a slope after that. It'll be unstoppable. So then this question of wondering what the human soul is then is important because we have to wonder if that AI can actually come into the brain, can it replicate exactly what the human experience and human soul is? And first you can question, right, this idea of qualia. Is a human soul, the human experience, the ability to feel things? So we see the colors green, red, we feel things, our bodies feel cold at times. Is it qualia? Right now in the sort of philosophical argument of functionalism, this notion of qualia cannot be solved with mere inputs and outputs. But if it is true that we live in we're kind of materialistic in the sense of materialism, in the sense that everything in our senses can be made up from, can be deduced down to material statuses like neurons in our brains firing and so forth, then it could be true that someday a computer can have a brain that is so precise to the human degree that it would be able to provide a sort of qualia experience for the computer simulation to feel. And this is kind of trippy and hard to imagine because, this computer, if it had all the data of the brain, there would be feeling, but who is doing the feeling? Is the computer going to be feeling something, or is it going to be providing a medium for feeling that someone else has to pick up onto? And this is where really sort of Buddhist philosophy gets really in handy, because Buddhist philosophy will say there is no self. And I in my course, I kind of agree with that fundamentally. So then in this same argument, the machine that can feel qualia, there's no self experiencing the qualia, but the neurons itself are creating a plane for experiencing. And I think this is similar to the human experience as well. We believe that there's a self in the body, but in reality what's happening is that there is neurons firing in our brain and sort of systems working, a very, very, very complex and complicated system that is right now beyond our reach. And that creates a vision of consciousness. And I think for humans, and this is what I argue is the meaning of life, is that this very absurdity of perception is incredible. So if someone's an undefiled observer, or in my framework, someone who doesn't see the self, they'll simply constantly be in awe and constantly marveling at the absurdity and the mystery of why there even is consciousness and why they can even perceive anything. And I think that's a very unique human bit, a very unique human soul bit, or something like uniqueness to humans that I don't know how will be replicated in robots. Or robots who can feel consciousness through simply the large complex scale of neurons, be able to marvel and feel all of the world from their perception. Or does that sense of awe come from something else in the human experience? Does it not come from our brains or whatnot? Does it come from something about our specific subjective experience? And can robots mimic that? So I'm talking about, right now, if we can make a robot and then it can mimic the human feelings, it could perhaps kind of understand human qualia, but it may not understand the quality that we see in deep spiritual practice, or in kind of the ties of religion and humans. Would robots be able to understand the deep philosophical implications of why religion is even a thing? Can they understand the idea of being this humility and being small within the greater scheme of the universe and being able to marvel at that? That's a question that I don't understand. And I think until we understand that, we will not be able to understand if computers can completely just make up humans with just machinery, and if they can use their own neural networks to completely mimic the human experience. Because until we figure out the source of why we feel awe and marvel at the source of the universe, we cannot figure out how machines can replicate it or not. Albert Einstein famously quoted that he himself was what he called himself a religious man. And that was not because he was traditionally religious, it was more so because he would be in deep fondness of the motion of awe. He said that any man who couldn't stand rapt with awe at the secrets and the mystery of the universe was as good as dead. And this kind of puts out this point that, with enough studying, enough scholarship, with enough discovering and exploring of the world, eventually people will come up to the realization that there is no answer. We don't know what's out there. And even our own perceptions can't be used to definitively prove anything about the real nature of the universe. And so there's a part of this human experience which is acknowledgement of the mysteries of it all and being wrapped with awe in it. And if we create a machine that can feel similarly to a human beings, would it be able to feel awe at the universe? Would it be able to kind of just completely be overwhelmed with this sort of unexplainable emotion of marveling at something bigger than itself? Yeah, I really want some answers to that. Please feel free to let me know in the comments. But I think this is a question that really nobody can answer right now, because that is one of the greatest mysteries of the universe. And even Albert Einstein himself said that any work we can do now will only prove an infinitesimally small part of what we know about the universe. So big questions, but whatever.